Okay, so today a couple of you had said you had trouble changing fractions to percents. So I thought I'd do a little video about that. This isn't a particular lesson, it's just extra help. I've got a grid and it's got 100 little squares in it. Remember, percent means out of 100. So we're going to look at our 100 grid, and you see I've divided it into 4 equal groups. Right? So I've got an orange group with 25 little squares, a blue group with 25 little squares, a pink group with 25 little, and a green with 25 little squares. Okay, so let's deal with the orange group, okay? So how many total groups do I have? I have 4, and I'm only dealing with one of them. So the orange group is 1/4 of my total shape, right? So I know 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, 4/4. Okay, so that's the fraction part. So that's pretty easy, right? Total number of pieces I have, or total number of things it's cut into pieces I have. So I know that that also equals 25 over 100, right? Because I have 25 out of 100. How did I get that? So I know I have 100. This is the piece I don't know. So what do I multiply 4 by to get 100? Oh, 25. Let's do the same thing there. So that's how I can do the math part of that. Okay, well, that doesn't really get me to percents, does it? Well, do you remember how Mrs. Snyder always said that that's a division problem? 1 divided by 4, right? Okay, so let's go ahead and make it a division problem. It looks funny, doesn't it? Remember, the top number always goes in the box? So that looks like a really weird division problem, doesn't it? But it doesn't look quite so weird now. So if I am dividing a decimal number by a whole number, as long as I bring my decimal up before I get started, I can just ignore it, right? So will 4 go into 1? No, so I'm going to put a 0 there. 0 times 4 is 0. Check. 1 is less than 4, so I can bring down. Okay, will 4 go into 10? Yes, 2 times. 2 times 4 is 8. Okay, check. Is 2 less than 4? Yes. I can't bring anything else down. Can I add another 0? Sure. Will 4 go into 20? 25 times. Okay, 5 times 4 is 20. Okay, so I'm all set. So now I've changed this fraction to this decimal, right? Okay, so let's go ahead and read that number out loud. So I can read that one as 1/4, or 1 divided by 4. That number, if I say that out loud, sometimes if I'm in a hurry or if I'm trying to distinguish things, I'll say 0.25. But really, I should say 25 hundredths. Oh, listen to what I'm saying. 25 hundredths. So that's the same thing. Okay, so now I still have a decimal and a fraction, but I want a percent. What does percent mean? 25 out of 100. Right? So as long as my denominator is 100, I can take those 2 zeros in the 100 and put them over there, and that tells me 25 out of 100, or 25%. Pretty easy, huh? Okay, so let's go ahead and do another problem. Let's do 1/5. Okay, so I'm going to break this 100 grid into 5 groups. So there's 1 group, 2 groups, 3 groups, oops, I'm going to start using the same colors because I ran out. 4 groups and 5 groups. Okay, so how many are in each group? I know that there are 10 in each row. So that's 20, that's 20, 20, 20, 20, right? So 1/5 is the same thing as 20 out of 100, right? 5 times 20 equals 100. 1 times 20 equals 20. So 1/5, 1 out of 5 groups, is the same as 20 out of 100 groups. Okay, well, remember I said it could be a division problem? So let's do it that way. Here, I know 20 out of 100 equals 20%, right? 1 divided by 5. Which number goes in the box? The top number always goes in the box. That looks weird, so let's add 2 zeros. Okay, will 5 go, oh, gotta bring my decimal up. Will 5 go into 1? Nope. Will, is 1 less than 5? Yes, so I can bring down. 5 will go into 10 2 times. 2 times 5 is 10. And I know I want 2 decimal places because I want to be able to say something hundredths, right? So I'm going to go ahead and bring that 0 down. And I get 0.20. Or if I say it properly, how do I say it? 20 hundredths. So I can also write that as 20, oops, out of 100, or 20%. So knowing that that's a division problem is helpful. I'm going to do one, flip over my page, that can't be quite as easy. So I think Mrs. Snyder used this on our video call this morning. So 6/7. So can I read that as 6 divided by 7? Sure. Okay. So which number goes in the box? 6. That looks weird. Add a decimal and 2 zeros. Okay. So I know that I can just add zeros on as long as I have that decimal. So that's still 6. It's just 6 and 0 hundredths, right? Okay. Will 7 go into 6? No. Is 6 less than 7? Yes. So I can bring down. Will 7 go into 60? What's 7 times 7? 49. Huh, need more than that. What's 7 times 8? Oh, 56. Okay. So 56. So I'm going to go ahead and subtract. Is 4 less than 7? Yes, so I can bring down. Will 7 go into 40? 5 times. Okay. The remainder of 5. I'm going to leave that for right now. I probably should have picked a problem that wasn't quite as hard, but Mrs. Snyder used this one. So I'm just going to ignore the remainder, and I'm going to say that it's almost 85 out of 100, 85 hundredths, right? So 85 hundredths, I can write it as a fraction. And then, remember, I can just change that to a percent. So I like knowing that I can always make this a division problem. I really only have to go 2 decimal places. I don't have to keep going. And then I can say, oh, I'm going to read that out loud correctly, 85 hundredths, write it as a fraction, and think of it as a percent. Those 2 zeros right there can go right there as a percent. Percent always means out of 100. Okay, so that's what I can do. So if I want to find the percent 6 is out of 7, it is 85%. 6 is 85% of 7. And I can do that with my lovely division problem. You'll probably get into the harder ones like this next year, but you could do anything with thinking of this fraction as a division problem, changing it to a decimal, and then saying the decimal out loud and changing it to a percent. I hope that helps, Lexi. You'll have to practice with it. if you do a lot of them, it gets a lot easier. So good luck.